talk about cooling and everything that goes along with this. This was from the Uptime Institute. They produced a publication earlier in the year. This is great information. They said PUE, average global PUE in 2018 was 1.58. And for 2019, looking at it being slightly lower and a target of 1.35. Again, we have a recap of the kilowatt hours that have been used, but I love how they broke it down and said 150 will be used for something other than IT equipment. Most of that, other than IT equipment, gets broken down into cooling. And one of the most telling things, and I think this is at the bottom bullet point, it says in U.S. data centers, nearly $1 billion for 12.5 billion kilowatt hours of what they considered wasted energy. Average rate per kilowatt in the U.S. is around 8 cents, which equals about 110,000 tons of carbon emission. I have spent a lot of time trying to understand why in my own data center, why in other data centers that I go into, not just here in the U.S., but globally, where overcooling seems to be a real problem, and Uptime in their publication captured that very, very well. Okay, I don't know that this is something I completely take credit for. This is a chart I used for quite a long time, and as I travel, people find this incredibly valuable. This is not precise exactly, but it is pretty darn close and more of a guideline for you to lose when you're trying to size the cooling needs within your data center. And I break it down starting by tons, 1 ton all the way up to 30. And we know that 1 ton will travel roughly 480 cubic feet per minute, a throw rate, which means how far will that air travel and maintain the proper static pressure to allow the proper stratification of 2.4 feet. And most important, and the one I look at the most, I know 1 ton of cooling will mitigate 3.5 kilowatts of heat or power in a data center. So we go all the way back to the very beginning about measuring our PUE, knowing what our kilowatt load is. This is one of the reasons where I can't manage and size my cooling properly if I don't know the load I have in the data center. Again, this is a great chart. I used it in many, many places. And then I want to show you a practical application. Here's an example of 6 data halls. Here that I love to do the rundown. 125 kilowatts for an IT load in hall 0. So if I were to divide that by 3.5, why? 1 ton of cooling will mitigate 3.5 kilowatts of heat. I see their requirement for kilowatts in tons is around 36. I saw in that room their actual cooling in tons was 148, and it came up to an extra 112 tons of cooling. Now, this becomes an important point. We always, in data centers, we plan for failure. We have redundancy in N+1, 2, 3, and 4 in almost every fashion that you can imagine. So newer technologies, being able to do what I call team crack units, where we connect the crack units through a network, a standard network switch where they all talk together and work as one. Now we can look at N+1 a little bit differently. And I cannot tell you what is right and what is best. Every data center has to make their own decision on this. But at Ohio State, our N+1 now is we have 2 20-ton crack units in standby. We have tested this over and over and over again. If one crack unit dies, it can call for the other crack unit to come up, or the other crack unit will see it. So they stay in standby mode and will come up as needed. I've seen some data center folks that have 24/7 staff where they can very quickly walk in and flip one on. I can't tell you what is best for you, but what I can tell you is here's a great way to size your cooling needs based on kilowatts. And then if we look down at the chart below that, we're also going to look at cubic feet. I'm going to use hall 0 again as an example. It had 3,204 square feet, 27,216 cubic feet. The capacity where they're cooling in cubic feet was 71,040 cubic feet. And again, we see an excess here. Why is this important? We're going to look at some of these data centers and we'll see that we don't just put all our equipment in one area of the data center, that it's spread out, that the crack units, we do have to take into consideration not only the supply air, but if we have any type of plenum or any return for the hot air to go back, we have to consider the cubic feet distance and volume associated with that as well, so we can move both the supply air and the return air effectively. So again, these two charts will give you a great idea on how to size by kilowatt and also by cubic feet.